and what kind of conversations you were maybe hoping to spark about loneliness, alienation, radicalization, and like online identity.
Well, we are lonely and radical, so it just kind of was very easy for us.
Hello, Oscar and Ricky. Welcome to Dial In for Movies. We are a film and TV podcast based in Toronto. My name is Kadija. It's my co-host Olivia. And we just want to say congratulations on the film. It's a huge accomplishment for an independent film. And you've been touring this film all over North America, and people seem to be responding really well to it, and especially according to the Letterboxd reviews. So yeah, thank you both so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you for asking us to take the time.
Yeah. we both loved it. Like you said, we saw it at TIFF Next Wave, and I've personally been following the film since it debuted at Tribeca last year. I'm like a huge Jaden Martell fan, so it was really cool to meet him the other day. But I also was just very excited to see this movie, and because I thought it sounded insane, and so I was so excited I got to see it last week.
Can I ask you, Olivia, was it as insane as you thought it would be?
It was crazy in like a different way. Like I think I was really expecting definitely there to be a school shooting in it. And when it was a little bit subversive in that way. Like it was a different kind of crazy. But it held up like all my expectations for what I thought it was going to be. So it was very exciting.
I do think some people go into it with the expectation that it's like purely in bad taste kind of thing.
And,
and I think a small percentage of people are slightly let down when it's not in bad taste, and then a lot of people are like relieved, but also almost need to go back and see it a second time because they had so many sort of like expectations or thoughts going into it that now that those things are out of their head, they can kind of see it for what it is and appreciate it and love it, and instead of giving it 3.5 to 4 stars, give it 5 stars on Letterboxd. Which they exactly do.
Well, to jump in, I'm genuinely curious about how you communicated the tone of this film to your collaborators in like practical terms, because what this film is doing tonally is really hard. It's both a satire and like a comedy almost, and I feel like it's really hard to articulate it even as a viewer, let alone like as an instruction to crew. Did you use any like references, any mood boards? Was there like a specific conversation with your DP early on that cracked it open? And what does it actually look like in practice?
Well, I think when you talk about tone, a lot of it is about who you cast, right? It's hard for me to pin it down until we're rehearsing and the characters becoming a lot more alive. I think we were both interested in kind of getting the audience laughing at the beginning and then presenting them with Solomon's story and starting to, and kind of like, all right, this is something different. I dare you to laugh now. I like the way that shifts underneath you in that moment. You sort of think, oh, this is going to be a movie where they're taking the piss out of rich people and their rich people problems, and then suddenly you're hanging out with this very different character with a very extremely different background. But I also think that like Ricky and we love movie. Sometimes when people talk about like tonal shifts, just love movies. I feel like in the 90s it was a little bit more expected that if you were going to do a movie, you as an actor, you were going to make a choice and you were going to do something different. And a lot of those performances in the 90s that like I don't even remember the movie so much as the performance, right? And I don't feel that as much anymore. And that was one thing that we really wanted when we were making this movie was like, I like movies when actors kind of act their asses off, and I think it's boring when everybody's kind of like, oh, okay, well, this guy's going to go down here and this person comes a little lower and this person comes a little lower. And then, it's like everybody's almost getting themselves down to this place that there's a time for it, but that's not what gets me excited about a movie. I love it when actors are, acting their asses off and making choices, taking risks, and that might make it feel a little bit uneven to somebody, but as long as the character's behavior and their emotions are honest and true to character, I think you can get away with a lot more than people think. And one thing that I was just really, for my first feature, having had the experience of feeling like I pushed it, and then you see the movie and it doesn't really register that way. I really wanted to make sure that we took it so far that we were like, okay, this is too crazy. So then we knew what the ceiling looked like, and we could find a place that felt like, oh, this is the movie. And you know, I was just talking to Asa earlier today, and we were talking about creating that space and rehearsals where we could go there. But there's also the thing of Ricky and I, for the central relationship, I don't even think, we don't like to call it a satire, and that was never really the intention. I think what Jaden and what Asa are doing, and the way that they're relating to each other, it feels very real, right? It's not, I think of satire, I think of American Psycho, where like a guy is working on Wall Street, viciously murdering people. Go ahead.
I think our movie, because I was thinking about it today, Oscar, I think our movie is much more in line with something like Shortcuts or Nashville, right? Where it's like the characters are, the actors are given sort of permission to go big, and there's a slight edge of like, are we making fun of them? But then at the same time, there's a real pain and despair underneath what the movie might be allowing them to be funny for. And I don't know if we ever talked about that while we were making it, but I was just thinking about that today, because I was thinking about how people call the movie topical and call it a satire. And like, you know, Shortcuts was like 40 years ago at this, almost 40 years ago at this point. And you go back and watch that, and you've got phone sex, you've got pesticides that are being dumped all over LA, and you've got all these kind of like seemingly topical references, but nobody at the time was like, oh, it's just topical, blah, 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 blah. You know, they accepted an artist making a movie about the time that they lived in and making jokes and storylines about it. But we exist in this period of movies, like Oscar was saying, where everything is so bound and constricted, right? And it's like, oh, that is a satire because they are, you know, taking the piss a little bit out of something, or that is very topical and timely. Well, I honestly, I don't think it's topical or timely to tell a story about gun violence in America. I mean, that'd be like using an iPhone in a movie and being like, oh, this is very topical and timely. Like, it's been in existence for a very long time. But I think people are so used to movies really being tonally one way and afraid and or not afraid, but tonally one way and very focused on being quote unquote timeless. You know, that's been something that's been going on since 2005. It feels like you're either a period piece or you're like a timeless movie about now. And I just don't think that Oscar and I were interested in that. And one more thing about like the tone of the movie is that Oscar and I never said this is the tone of the movie. You know, we never said, hey, this is a comedy and it's also this. Where we wrote what felt honest to us, whether that was a joke or whether that was something brutal or something dramatic. And when we were on set and Oscar was directing and we were talking about what they were doing and Oscar was talking to the actors, the conversations were about, at the risk of sounding pretentious, what felt honest, right? Not like, hey, this scene's getting too dark here. Let's throw a joke in to make sure that the audience is relieved a little bit, right? It was never like that. It was more about what on a gut level felt very honest and entertaining to Oscar and I. Stop me if you disagree with that, Oscar.
No, I do. I would add, and we won't take such a long time answering every question. But, I do.
But this is also like, this is the question regarding the movie,
yeah.
right? Like that's why I feel like we're both taking so long to answer it. We get it at every Q&A, any interview we've done. I love the question, but now we've answered it 700 times, and it's not like our answer has gotten smaller because of that. It's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Sorry, Oscar, go ahead.
Well, I've always been really inspired by the, as far as like contemporary films, I think of Koreans and Korean pop music too, where it's like, Americans, Westerners are catching up to this as well, but there's just like a fearlessness of why does this have to be one thing? Why does this have to be one way? We can be, our hook can sound like a dance song, and then we can have this section that feels much more like a country song. It's cool. And I think that people are, and you think about your feed on social media or when you're like flipping through reels on YouTube, our brains comprehend this stuff. And they do, I mean, I think pretty fine. Like, of course, there's something appealing, and there's a time for the kind of formal rigor that, whether that's the color palette or the tone or the, you know, the framing or the, but I don't know. For me, I like the waves. I like the up and downs, and I like trying to like make it bigger, and how, like, this is the ceiling I'm trying to hit, you know, to see what's possible. And that goes, I think often that is, it's more about like emotions and a vibe and an energy than it is anything else. So we talked about A Clockwork Orange also as like a movie where the adults are almost like histrionic, or they're almost like caricatures. Yeah. Even though Alex DeLarge, he's extreme in his own ways, but he's quite grounded in others. It's like, oh, that's possible. Like, we never get mad about that. Yeah. And I also just like, especially with editor Nate DeYoung, like, he and I have been making videos for the internet forever that like, where I always kind of feel like the challenge is taking a lot of disparate things and turning them into something coherent. So that could be found footage. That could be like something that somebody else shot that they're sending me. That could be archival stuff. That could be something that I filmed in a very deliberate way. And I think in the back of my mind, I just have this, I know that I have a confidence that we can make it congeal and make it into something that works. Because even if I hadn't done it on a narrative feature before, I've had that experience with other films.
Yeah.
I could really go on and on and on about this, so we should move on to the next question. Unless Oscar wants to. Because, right, Oscar's cooking, and when Oscar starts cooking, I start cooking, and it goes back and forth, and now I'm thinking about a lot of stuff.
Well, the next...
Also, just, I love movies, and I'm thinking of, like, I remember pitching the movie, and I was trying to communicate. Somebody was like, what is the tone? I was like, you know that scene in A History of Violence where Viggo Mortensen, Canadian film, where Viggo Mortensen is talking to his son, and he's like, we don't hit people in this house. And his son's like, oh yeah, we just shoot them, huh? and you laugh, and then Viggo Mortensen slaps his son in the face. And it's like, you're laughing, and then, oh shit, you know, this kind guy hasn't done anything like that. I love moments in movies like that, and believe in them. And I don't know if we got one exactly like that, but like, I think that's a big part of cinema, and it's something to aspire to.
I did, like, I don't know, personally, like, tonally, it shifted a lot, like, when I was watching it, but the moment it clicked for me in terms of like, oh, this is not one thing, was when it cut to Solomon's, like, the head shot. Like, we hadn't really seen much actual violence up until then, and then it cuts to, like,
spoiler alert.
Yes. I'll like flash something across the screen, but that I was like, oh, this is something else now, which was amazing, like, so cool to see. But that moment to me was that kind of Viggo Mortensen moment of like, this is something, this has changed, the tone has changed.
Shortcuts, going back to Shortcuts, right? It's a 3-hour movie. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a Robert Altman movie, 3-hour movie comprised of, what is it, like 25, 50 major speaking parts all the way through. And the whole movie, there's an undercurrent of evil and despair. But there's something on the top that's very funny. And these characters and their interactions with each other and the things that they're hiding from each other is funny. but you've also got a dead girl in the river that the fishermen pissed on, that they lied about. And then you've got the affair that like Julianne Moore's character has, and then you have Chris Penn, who's got this bottled up, repressed sexual energy while he's always watching his wife, Jennifer Jason Leigh, have phone sex with men. All of this stuff is played surfacely for a while in a very comic way, you know, or a cringe comic way. And then all of a sudden you get to that earthquake at the end, and Chris Penn bashes that girl's head in with a rock because all of that sexual frustration has been pent up. And it's a powder keg. Oscar and I love powder keg movies. We love where like it's all fun and games until someone loses an eye, right? And I mean that's literally what fucking happens in our movie. And so like, and whenever we go back and pick out movies, we naturally gravitate towards those. Pusher 2, Taxi Driver, Shortcuts, even Nashville is that, right? Nashville is this powder keg of the people around Nashville until Barbara Jean she gets mowed down by the guy.
We get it, man. You really know Nashville is more.
I mean, I could go on and on about those movies, but I just think those are the kind of. And I was thinking about it today, and those I think are in some ways the closest comp without us even really thinking about it while we were making it, and just in terms of how the humor itself is a roller coaster building to a powder keg at the end. Yeah,
I mean, my next question is kind of, I don't know, piggybacking off of that a little bit. The film engages with like extremely sensitive and potentially like volatile subject matter. Like, I'm curious how, when writing and directing, like you navigated the responsibility of portraying something like this without sensationalizing it, and what kind of conversations you were maybe hoping to spark about loneliness, alienation, radicalization, and like online identity.
Well, we are lonely and radical, so it just kind of was very easy for us. I just don't think, Oscar, stop me if you have something specific you want to say. Maybe it's a disservice to say this out loud, but I don't think Oscar and I stopped that often to have the broader political conversations while we were writing, because that would remove any subtext or sort of cancel creativity. I think anytime those conversations came up, it would be kind of like, did we go too far here? Did we screw something up? Something rubs you the wrong way or makes you feel like, oh, maybe this would hurt in a way that we don't want it to hurt. So let's talk about that. But we never were like, if we were talking about the broader political context stuff, it was like something Oscar said at a Q&A the other day, which is the first 2 hours of our day writing is spent talking about the world. And then all of a sudden we kind of, filter down into talking about our script. So maybe that stuff that was at the top of the funnel has filtered in there a little bit, but we're not necessarily being like, hey, I want to tackle a big subject here,
Yeah, we could say stuff, but it would be more like things that we kind of liked that people have said about it now that the movie's over, or even
that's true.
Yeah, we didn't think about it in the moment, but we did when we started to. There was at least that question of how do you, when everything is performed, how are you to process anything as authentic? That was I think something that grounded us at times and it helped.
Nice.
I was just gonna say, I think it's a lot of instinct and then a lot of like pulling back and being like, is this something that I've already seen before? Is this too on the nose? Is this what we feel good about? Not necessarily, is this what we want to say? A lot of people ask like, what were we trying to say with the movie, or what do we want to say? Right. And I just think there's a lot of things that we said with it, but if we ever sat down and said, what do we want to say with this movie? We would have had writer's block for, years on end.
Absolutely.
Do you feel that way, Oscar?
Yeah, I don't think we're either really are very interested in like writing to theme as much as to character and relationships. And we have great respect for people who do. because it's
You'll
great
follow
to
the
see a
Blake
story.
Snyder.
Yeah.
When it comes to the backdrops, how intentional was it to have it set in New York and Texas, two really loaded American landscapes, and almost make them like characters in the film?
Very intentional. We never had Balthazar living anywhere else. I think, neither of us are New Yorkers, but we both lived there for a while. I'm from a very small town. Even though I've lived in New York for 19 years, I still feel like a outsider. I still feel like a small town guy. But obviously, it's the wealthiest city in the country, and there's and there was this early image of this kid that's up in this extremely expensive apartment, crying about how lonely he is, but he's surrounded by one of the densest cities in the world. So we never really, that was extremely deliberate, and we just that's always where he was. I think that with Texas, there's maybe Florida was was considered for like a second, but we wanted to shoot somewhere that had lax gun laws, and as a starting point at least. And Texas is iconic. It's also, I felt like there's an opportunity to show a part of Texas that you don't see all the time, right? Like there's the Friday Night Lights kind of Texas, and like my girlfriend is English, and it's always funny to see kind of what she thinks America is, and so much of it is through these shows of the OC and Friday Night Lights, and Friday Night Lights. It's not like a total. There's great stuff about it. I like that show, but I think that the idea that Solomon lived not in like a rural country song of a town, that he lived somewhere that felt like where most Americans live, and with like all this concrete and kind of repressive architecture, like living between two freeways, and it feels kind of flat and rural, but like you can see lights from malls and corporate like business centers all night, I think just as we pinpointed it started to feel more and more right. So
yeah.
We had this idea about the wealthy element of Balthazar and how to depict it, where we really didn't want, as much as he lives in like a $80 million high rise, and you hear Eleanor talk about it, and you sort of get to see it. I feel like we don't indulge it, and we don't shoot it in a way that makes you feel like you yourself can kind of glamorize it or admire it even in a way. And that wasn't to show, I don't know. I think both Oscar and I had a lot of conversations about how Succession and a number of other sort of eat the rich shows are actually quite like pornography for wealthy people, where you're just kind of getting to indulge in all of the beautiful, amazing yachts and boats and apartments and estates that they live on, and so it's like, sure, they're assholes, but at the same time, if you're like a wealthy person or semi-wealthy person, you can almost like ignore everything they're saying and just be like, that is a really nice house. It's a great house. And like as much as the apartment is like this incredible backdrop for Balthazar, it just doesn't necessarily. I feel like Oscar did an amazing job of executing a lot of conversations we had prior to shooting about making sure it didn't feel like we were giving the ultra wealthy something that they could relate to.
I like that.
Or admire or want to be in.
Yeah. Fair enough.
This felt like a very confident directorial debut. I was honestly shocked when I found it was your first feature. So I'm curious, like, this is a pretty basic question, but like, what were those biggest challenges that you faced, like getting a film like this made independently?
it's boring, but it's the raising the money, you know.
Yeah.
Like Ricky has seen me like write some pages, but he's probably seen me call like 1,000, maybe 5,000 people and just do the, hey man, what's going on? I got your
Oscar's
number.
Oscar's the most confident person I know. You know, I don't want. I feel like that could maybe rub some people the wrong way, but he is the most confident, yet at the same time, not egoless, because we all have ego, and it would be a lie to say someone doesn't have ego. Confident, yet good person that I know. I've known Oscar for a very, very, very long time, but seeing him in the last 4 years that we've been trying to put projects together, I don't know anybody who exists with as much confidence as he does. It's always impressive, and it's always inspiring.
Thanks, man.
That's so nice.
I mean, people say this, but it's like if you can raise money, you can make a movie, you know, and or at least you can try. A lot of people, and it's so frustrating. And I encourage anybody who feels like, who says, "Oh, I don't want to raise money. I don't want to ask anybody for money." Definitely, if you get any, just make what you can with that, you know, instead of beating yourself up because you've been trying to raise money for a year and you're not getting anywhere, and then you're mad because you're not good at it, and you should be making a movie instead, and you've been told that you need this much before you're allowed to make a movie. But yeah, I think once I did start to raise money, I did develop a confidence that was kind of like, oh wait, I don't need every project I ever produced was just one person or one company writing one check. That's very simple, right?
Yeah.
And whereas this, I realized that wasn't going to happen, and then we started to put little pieces together, and I kind of liked it because I was the boss. Nobody had a big enough piece of the movie in terms of investment to tell me what I had to do,
Right.
or for me to feel like I had to check in with them all the time. So then I did develop a kind of confidence, which was like, okay, they're saying we should cut a day out of the schedule, but maybe I could just raise more money. And that's not the ideal way to be making a movie as you go, but it is the way I made this one, because as I raise more, then you can ask this person to put a little bit in. Hey, do you know anybody else?
Yeah.
And you can be really specific. You can say, hey, I spent it all on shooting, so now I need this much in order to get it to the point where we can send it to a festival. And and so that was empowering. I wouldn't do it again. I hope
Right.
I've
always said I would be I'd be a great rich person. I've always said that because I would put money, like that's where I would spend my money, is like funding independent film.
That's what Ricky always says too.
Yeah.
So it's like if I got some money,
I'd be a great rich person because I'd fucking hang out and do nothing.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm rich, leave me alone.
Yeah. I mean, that's what
don't
people
get
want.
No, that's a really great thought. You would hope so, but then like most rich people, you put
They
the
do.
money into the movie and watch it go away, and you're like, well, I'm rich, but I don't want to. I don't feel good watching money go away.
Yeah, that's fair.
Fair enough.
Not with our movie though.
No, it went to good use, actually.
Yeah.
It really did.
Really good use.
I have a bit of a craft question because about a year ago, I started to try my hand at screenwriting, still very much at the beginning of that journey. But one thing that keeps catching me out is this, like there's a moment where a character starts to feel real and you think you've got them. And then you realize you were only ever guessing their voice once you put them in a new scene and they feel flat again.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm asking, how do you know the difference? And is there a specific feeling when you have a character genuinely locked in versus when you think you're still kind of doing like an impression of them?
I don't really feel like I ever felt like I had the characters locked in until we were like in pre-production and we were like listening to our actors do rehearsals. We did a lot of rewriting during rehearsals, and that's just a gift. And I think for you, for your sake, whether they're the actors for your movie or not, doing readings with actors that you can find to just help read your words. That helps a lot, because you find that oftentimes like the tone of a character is kind of defined more so by what they're doing and how kind of quickly they can explain or talk around what they're doing. And it's not so much about like their like rhythm and rhythm and all that will be developed after you know what they're doing and why they're doing it, you know, like it almost comes after want. And I always thought for so long, and I still do, because it's so much easier to sit down and write and think about it like that way. It's harder to find the motivations. But once you find the motivations, that's when you actually really start finding how they talk, because you know why.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I do think that when it made it harder and easier for different reasons, that just having the two main characters, because their journeys are both they're kind of inverses of each other, right? And there was I think a sort of like symmetry that emerged pretty early on that we both felt and wanted to lean into, and that just reminded you that like there is this charge that's there when they share space and their sort of masks come off. That at least for me made it a little easier to keep moving forward, and I could almost check the other one if I felt like the other felt flat, you know, because they're like mirror inverses. And I know that sounds sort of mathematical, but sometimes that stuff works for me.
Writing kind of is like math, to be honest. I'm starting to find out, which is annoying because I don't like math. But
Neither do I.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, or basically follow up about my question that I asked at the screening about the score, because it has been probably one of my favorite scores I've ever heard.
Amazing.
And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about your collaboration with the composer, and I'd love to hear more about the pandemic box that you mentioned at the screening as well.
Oh, well, you can check out his channel. It's very cool. I'll send it to you. Because he's got this box and he's making loops, and it's very fun, and it's weird, and it's playful, and it is kind of like what we were describing earlier, where like 1 minute you're sort of like, whoa, that is really eerie, and then the next minute next moment you're like giggling, you know. Yeah. And I think when James found some of these loops and shared them with us, it was like it felt like when your casting director shows you the actor that you didn't know that you wanted, but immediately recognized as the character, you know?
Yeah.
James and I worked on my short film, Power Signal, which was our first collaboration, with a slightly different process, because I think on that one we got to work the way he likes to work, which I got used to as well, where he just made a huge suite of music, like way longer than the movie itself. So it wound up cutting down to about 20 minutes. And he made probably like 50 minutes worth of music. It was a suite. And then Aaron DeWitt and I, when we went into the edit, we had all this great stuff that we liked, and we could put it where we needed to. And with only a few exceptions did we have to change things. And whereas this one, it's my fault, but we weren't in a position to get James going on that suite. But I think it kind of turned out for the best, because we had some original music, we had some temp music, and because there was I think it allowed the movie to find itself and us to sort of discover certain things in the edit a little bit more, because we knew that the music wasn't there, and music is so tied to to tone. You know, we knew we weren't going to be able to use a lot of the stuff that we were cutting with. I think James really did what a composer is supposed to do, which is he hung in with the movie. And even though I was really annoying and changed my mind a bunch of times, which I try not to do out of respect for my collaborators, I try to be as prepared as I can be, so that because I have a great respect for people's time and the musicians' time, but he could tell that I wanted to take a turn, and he supported that, and we threw out everything that we had about, I don't know, halfway through the edit, and he introduced the pandemic box, which meant we fully changed everything. Like I when we were doing the marketing, I looked back and I was like, damn, he made so much music that we didn't use, which a lot of people would not have the patience for. So props to James William Blades for scoring a movie and not just making music for a job, you know, and sticking with the movie as it followed the path that it wanted to. I think even, you know, I really, it was probably the most challenging part of it for me, because I knew how important it was, but I had to admit I was wrong a few times. And once you say that, once you say I'm wrong, I'm allowed to change my mind. It's okay. It's my movie. Like, as long as you don't change it back, I think it's okay. You have to make the full commitment. Because I remember even sort of saying, you know, like there's that theme that comes back a few times. And that was not something I ever thought was going to be in the movie. I would have said like, oh, that's a different movie. That is almost like a rom-com or something. But once we landed on it, it was like, oh, this is great. James, put it back in. Put it here. Put it there. And I learned so much from it. So I really both in the scoring and in the mix.
Do you feel like, Oscar, that theme, because I remember a specific conversation we had when we were going over the opening shot of the movie over and over and over again. And there was you were anxious that like we needed to introduce that the movie could be funny to the audience early on. And my take, and I don't think either of us we found some sort of middle ground here. So I don't know who was necessarily right or wrong. And sometimes I actually still think I might've been wrong, but you were like, we need to introduce that the movie can be funny here, and maybe we have a chance to do it with the music. And I was saying, no, look at the Coen brothers. They never introduced to the audience that the movie could be funny through their music. They always introduce tragedy through their music. And you have to work for the first viewing to find the humor, with the exception of like Big Lebowski or Burn After Reading. But even the Burn After Reading music is quite operatic in a way. Do you feel like, because the thing about collaborating with Oscar is that he's an incredible listener, and he'll then be like, he'll never hear you and say, no, that's a bad idea, unless you're like a belligerent asshole about it. You know, he'll just hear you and he'll think about it, and then he'll go do what is right for the movie or what he thinks might be right. Do you feel like where you landed with the score at the beginning was an effort to introduce the humor a little bit more? I don't necessarily feel that way. I still feel like we landed in a place that we had talked about.
Yeah.
Because score doesn't really, the score that you're referring to, that theme doesn't really kick in until Eleanor, right?
Correct. Yeah.
We get a taste of it at the top, but it doesn't really kick in until we introduce Eleanor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And even cool. It's dun, 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 which is not the same as Balti getting excited and having purpose, and you know.
Well, that's it. I've come to feel like
that's the lonely boy.
The theme is his fantasy, right? The theme kicks in when he's fantasizing about who Eleanor can be. The theme kicks in when he's fantasizing about like what Solomon could be, right? Like Solomon says, "Wait, do you see what the rest of I'm packing?" And then we cut to Balthazar and see a slight smile on his face, and then the theme kind of kicks in again. His new crush.
Yeah, very, very heavy on the bromance, which I really liked.
Very heavy on the what?
The bromance. The bromance.
Bromance is one way to refer to it.
I mean, what were you like aiming for? Like I don't even know, like a homoerotic relationship? Like what, or was it like just like Balthazar projecting his fascinations onto Solomon?
Do you want the deep answer, or do you want the
Let's get into it.
Always the deep answer.
Yeah.
Well, the real answer, the surface answer, is that Oscar and I grew up watching Gregoraki movies. And
It's amazing.
we love when I think I don't want to speak for Oscar, but I love when sexuality feels kind of dangerous, you know, and
Yeah.
with two repressed boys who are also using weapons and are also dealing with unrequited love with the opposite sex. They're how they touch each other becomes kind of dangerous, and it becomes very charged, and that just is that's just fun to watch for us on screen, you know. But we have definitely more deeper analysis of it, but I think the deeper analysis comes after kind of like the gut instinct of like, we want to do this. Okay, now let's talk about like what it could be.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and like why it's that.
We have us back for a deeper analysis after we're on streaming.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, in the best way possible. Yeah, their relationship reminded me, a little bit of like Mysterious Skin or something like that, where it's just like,
Best.
oh my god, just horrifying. Everybody needs to calm down. But yeah, that's love that reference.
I thought we were, when we had our LA premiere, I reached out to Gregораki's manager to say, like, look, it would mean so much if you would watch the movie. Maybe, Greg, if you're listening, you'll watch it. But I was like, I thought maybe we were going to have a meeting with him. So I wanted to rewatch Mysterious Skin, and I was watching it on the plane. And this guy next to me was at a certain point, he was like, can we just move past that scene? And he was like, I'm trying not to look at your screen, man, but I saw it and I can't. During the scene when Joseph Gordon-Levitt is like going down on the guy from Noah's Arcade in Wayne's World for the first time.
It's hip, it's cool, it's Noah's Arcade.
Yeah. What's that actor's name? He's great.
Wait, it's not Brian Doyle Murray, because there's Noah from Noah's Arcade. There's Brian Doyle Murray, Bill Murray's brother. And then there's the guy that is like Rob Lowe's like kind of like partner in crime that works under Noah. Or Brian Doyle Murray. I can't remember who that guy's name is.
We'll get back.
But I think you're talking about that guy. I don't think Brian Doyle Murray would have done Mysterious Skin. But now I'm gonna look, guys. I'm sorry.
But
This is
I think
boots
that's
on the ground
probably,
journalism.
it's like
That's right.
like definitely one of some of the most searing, in a good way, movie watching experiences as a kid, especially like seeing the Doom Generation just as a VHS on the shelf at the store, and then watching it with your friends before you even know what some of the things you're talking about are. And now it's just great at my age to have one of the great one of my best airplane movie watching experiences. Also, Gregoraki.
So true. I recently watched Nowhere for the first time a couple months ago, which is amazing.
Great
It's so
movie.
well written. And I'm very excited. Like, I Want Your Sex is like my number one most anticipated movie this year. So very excited.
When we right after I cast Jaden, I was like, let's go see some movies, and I took him to Nowhere when they had the 4K
nice.
at IFC for the restoration.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was our first date.
I think you might be confusing this guy for
Oh, am I
Brian
wrong?
Doyle Murray. Yeah, I
Is
think
it
you're
not him?
confusing this. I think it's this guy Richard Riel, who is also I don't know if you remember in Ken Park. He's the guy that the dad is like driving around and is like drinking booze in the passenger seat and is like, "Let's go get some P-word." That guy. I think it's that guy who's like a pervert, like a middle-aged pervert in a number of movies for like 15 years.
Oh my god! I in my head I was like,
I I didn't dig that deeply, but that's the guy in Mysterious Skin that looks like Brian Doyle Murray.
Okay, stand corrected.
No worries. Going back to the movie, Balthazar reads as a borderline sociopath, but also a deeply needy person. He's constantly chasing validation more than anything else. How did you strike that balance so he didn't come off as a purely monstrous person when writing him?
That was the thing I think both of us were really nervous about, and maybe that's kind of a version of the question you were asking earlier about like, when do you know you have a handle on the character and lock in versus not. And because we'd write pages and then realize, oh shit, like we did it again. He's this master manipulator, and you can't have him saying those things because then he becomes this evil little kid, and he is a kid. Like, how do we? It's such a testament to Jaden's performance that he didn't just freak out and be like, fuck you guys, because it's really hard when you're doing bad things and you're unaware of them, and you kind of think you know why you're doing them. If somebody asks you, he might say that he's doing it, to impress Eleanor, or he might say that he's doing it because he wants to stop a school shooting, right? But there's something else that's going on underneath. And we worked really hard on that, and Jaden was such a big part of, at a certain point, he just becomes the guy who knows the character better than us, and that's such a great moment. But when you have those things of being a pretty passive character, but there's something really nasty going on underneath, to be able to do it and still feel like a kid where we can feel bad for him at the same time is amazing. I think it's breathtaking.
Yeah. I want to also talk about Balthazar and Solomon on the page versus who they became on screen, because Jada and Asa are both something really specific in this movie, and it's incredible to witness. How close is what we're watching, I guess, the audience on screen to what you guys wrote, and where do they take the characters somewhere that you didn't expect?
I have a really hard time answering this question at this point. We shot the movie in 2024. We edited it basically up until the Tribeca screening. And I don't know, like last time I watched the movie, I was so elated because I felt like Oscar and I made something we would have been really proud to watch as teenagers, which is something that we really set out to do. But I also felt at moments like, did I write that? I guess I wrote that. Maybe I didn't write that. I don't remember. Which is kind of the best feeling. You don't want to be like, you want to be a part of a team. You don't want to feel so ostracized from the process as a craftsperson, like a co-writer or something, that you're watching the movie and thinking to yourself like, that was me, I did that, or I had a better idea there and they should have done that instead. So like, even thinking about like what was on the page versus what Asa and Jaden became, obviously they owned those characters and took it to a whole nother level that I couldn't have imagined. But I don't necessarily feel like I just don't remember what was on the page. I'll go through this analogy very quickly, but I have a 2-year-old, and they say that you forget everything very quickly, right? You forget about how hard the first 3 months were, how this changed and that changed, and I feel kind of that way about the movie. It's such a process. Now we're in the process of getting it out into the world that I only remember this process. I don't remember the hardship of with Oscar while he was raising money, or the hardship of like banging our heads against the wall while writing it. You're just you're only looking at what's in front of you, in a way. It's a very, very long-winded answer for what's probably a very easy question. Oscar, take over.
You did write some of it. I remember that. No, it's a good answer. These guys, I felt very lucky that that both of them, they responded to material, responded to me, wanted to take risks, wanted to go on the adventure, and I think the main thing was just once they got in the same room, it's like, oh, a few days in, I was like, wow, there's something really cool going on that I never would have, it never would have been something that I was calculating or expecting. Just the two sort of acting styles, the two different approaches to performance, the fact that Jaden has when you see him through the lens, you start to see all this stuff that you you would miss in a zoom, and then I think the way that Solomon that Asa brought this kind of manic energy and jittery awkwardness to it. It was just like I remember being like, this is really cool. Because pretty quickly and just not what I expected at all, which is the best. That once the two of them are in the room together, there's a charge there, and I don't know if I would have been able to see it if it was just Asa acting by himself, and I don't know if I would have been able to see it if Jaden gave that audition. But once it was together, it was fantastic. We definitely didn't do chemistry reads or anything like that. And now I'd probably, if I had to do them on a future movie, I'd probably be paranoid or something, or throw away something that was better than I thought, because I'd be comparing it to what these two had.
Right.
You could definitely feel it on the screen with them whenever they were together. I was just on the edge of my seat, like, what's about to happen, So truly unpredictable performances from both of them. And Asa, like I said, looks unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Which is
crazy.
It's wild.
And like I found myself like halfway through like feeling so bad for him, and I was like, why am I feeling bad for someone who was potentially a school shooter?
Yeah.
And it was
you should
you
should feel bad, and you should feel this is something that I've been saying in a few Q&As recently, which is that like I have a very deep empathy for both the victims of school shootings, but the young men who commit them. They are often children too. They are often very young, and they are in a lot of deep pain, and there's a lot of mental health problems, and there's a lot that's going on that no one is taking care of, that no one is helping them with, and so I do think that as we've talked more and more about the movie with people, I've come to sort of understand that I think subconsciously the fact that Asa doesn't become the thing that you think he's going to become is me kind of working out my own empathy for these young men who lose all of the empathy of the world when they do the thing that they've been fantasizing about, And so because Asa doesn't do it, we end up being able to hold on to that for him, even though he embodies so many of those characteristics that we naturally hate,
Yeah.
Say, there's this wonderful short called His Mother by Maya Scalia, who it's kind of a POV on the mother of a school shooter who goes to his either high school or uni, I believe. And to see that POV gave me a lot of empathy of that, I guess what you're talking to about like the young boys who are in dire needs with their mental health. And yeah, it is definitely interesting. You getting the perspective of Solomon, because I didn't think we were going to go down that path in this movie. And you do start to feel for him once you realize the different types of pressures he's in or facing. But also it's like not a fault of his own. It's capitalism and like the government, whatever. There's so many different things, but yeah, definitely getting Solomon's POV changed everything, I think, and really added to the film and I guess showed his human side.
I don't think it's Balthazar's fault either, even though I think it's harder for most audiences to come to grips with that. But that was a conversation that Oscar and I had a lot of the time about, the circumstances that Balthazar is in and how they're affecting his psyche and how they're affecting the way that he observes and takes in and creates his own morality. When you're 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, you are just not fully developed, and you really need you still need strong parental guidance often,
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
discipline, guidance, love, compassion.
Yeah, absolutely. So finally, since our podcast is called Dial M for Movies, we do like a fun segment. We like to call Movie Speed Dial. So we give you a category, and then you give us the first movie that comes to mind.
Love it.
So the first one is a movie that you dial up when you need a good laugh.
It's not. Does it have to be a movie?
No, any media that you enjoy.
Yeah.
I love The Lady Eve.
Ooh.
Oh, God damn it, Oscar! Now I gotta come up with a good answer. Go ahead, pontificate about The Lady Eve.
No, it's
when I then respond and say, "It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia" bloopers.
And me too.
And that's valid. Yeah. We'll take it.
Ricky sends Eastbound bloopers. I feel like more than any other YouTube video.
And Eastbound bloopers. Yeah.
A movie you dial up that's lesser known but a personal favorite.
Vampire's Kiss.
Ooh.
With Nicolas Cage.
Got it.
Love it.
I mean, I guess Show Me Love is pretty well known. It's a cult classic. Maybe.
So is Vampire's Kiss in a way. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we did a little video about that Swedish movie. So maybe by Lucas Moodysson, Show Me Love, fucking Amal.
Fucking Amal.
Well known in Europe, but probably something that certainly some of your listeners won't have seen, and I think is impossible to not be charmed by.
Love it. A movie you dial up that is a go-to from your favorite director.
I'm going to lean into my basic film bro.
Yeah, do it.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I think Oscar and I both grew up in the 90s. PTA for so many film bros in the 90s is like their guy. I don't know if he's really still your guy, Oscar, but he's probably pretty close.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, he is, like even going to see One Battle After Another, like as soon as it started, I could feel his sensibility. And it was like, I got shivers because it's like a new Pete. I can his aesthetic is in my DNA. It's in my bones. And I get an immediate dopamine reaction to it. So one of his movies that I will happily fire up anytime is The Master.
Yeah.
Because I think no matter how many times I watch it, we
got you.
Did I get booted off for a second?
No, you're good.
You're still good.
Oh, all the screens went black on me. I was just saying, whenever I want to fire up a movie of his that I can watch, it's usually The Master. I don't know if I necessarily think The Master is my favorite movie by him, but I can always kind of unlock new mysteries and feelings within it. And as soon as it kicks in and that Johnny Greenwood score starts and the sort of crystal blue ocean powdering off the back of the boat, I'm in, and I find new things to laugh at with it. I think he is really, and he doesn't get credit enough, but he is really the master of injecting weird humor in what is otherwise a very dramatic scene. Yeah. And I think while awesome all the time, while we were making this movie, he's definitely rooted in our sensibilities. You're watching The Master and you're like, okay, this is about a guy with PTSD and he's going crazy or whatever. And like one of the first scenes is him at the VA, and the guy's doing a Rorschach test with him, and all he keeps talking about is vaginas and penises. And it's such a hilarious moment in this very somber, dark movie, and it's such a big performance by Joaquin Phoenix. He really is, I think, probably, without us, Oscar and I wanting to say it, because we don't want to admit to ourselves how much of an influence he is on us, probably like, DNA wise, so much of where that tonal conflict in the movie comes from. I think,
Absolutely.
This is more of a recent favorite. A movie you dial up that was released in the last year or two.
Yeah.
I mean, you just mentioned One Battle After Another, so I will take that for this answer. If that was
Yeah, I mean, I watched that 4 times in theaters, and it never got, and it was just great. So that's an easy one.
Yeah, I could probably fire that up and be pretty excited.
yeah.
I mean,
Valid.
I saw it, but I did fire it up recently on like HBO Max at like 2:00 in the morning. Randomly, I was like, it had just come on HBO Max, and I was like, I should go to bed, but I just want to watch a couple minutes of this. As soon as it started, I was locked in, and I stayed up till the sun rose because I was just, I have to watch. I just had to watch it. So I guess maybe that.
A movie you dial up with a score or soundtrack that you could listen to on repeat.
Contagion.
Love it.
Oh, wow.
Don't Look Now.
Ooh,
The Pino Donaggio score, incredible.
love that. Great picks.
And also The Master again.
Incredible score.
Yeah. A movie you dial up when you need a good cry.
I was on Instagram today, and there was this scene from Forrest Gump where he finds out that he has a son, and I fucking cried my eyes out. It's just the scene from the movie, and she's like, "That's your son, Forrest," and he's like, "Is he smart?" And I just like, and that's not a one I haven't watched that movie in like probably 25 years. And I was like, any other time in my life before having a child, I probably would have seen that clip and been like, trash. But this time I was like, oh, beautiful. Look at this. Look at how beautiful this is.
Oh, that's so funny.
I could like see myself too, like as I was weeping. I was also like on my ceiling, Hereditary style, watching.
Yeah.
I cry all the time.
The real one is You Can Count on Me, the Kenneth Lonergan movie.
Ooh,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, possible. Yeah, good one.
and Oscar, you just cry at every movie you said, or all the time?
I cry a lot.
Okay, so you don't need a movie.
Yeah, my girlfriend makes fun of me for it, or she'll turn over and be like waiting for it.
That's so good. And then
what do you what you're watching Drive or something?
Yeah.
I watched Drive the other day and I almost cried. What a life he lived.
The driver?
Yeah, the driver.
Yeah.
And we don't know what happens. That's crazy. Okay, and then finally is a movie that's your all-time favorite and you'll stick by no matter what. Which is tough.
I love a movie that you have to defend. You have to sort of like not explain why it's good, but some people will sit and watch it and be like, "This is kind of like whatever, blah blah blah," And I think one of the things that I'm so excited about our hero Balthazar is that I think that Oscar and I made a movie in a way that a lot of people will be like, no, I love this movie and I love it for this reason. And I'm going to defend it to you, and that makes me so happy because those are the movies that really stick with me are the movies that like they stick with me because they feel like they're mine, like I get to own that movie. It's not like, it's in a way, it's not like One Battle, right? Like I loved One Battle, but it feels like that doesn't get to be mine.
Yeah.
Right. So a movie that I have to think of like maybe like At Close Range, the Sean Penn, the James Foley movie with Sean Penn and Christopher Walken. I've shown that movie to people, and they thought that it's corny because of the some of the cinematography, the stylization, and some of the Madonna song that's kind of like is essentially the score and kind of sprinkled throughout the whole movie. I love it. I love that Madonna score. I love how in the midst of this like gorgeously stylized, wet street, backlit, beautifully made 80s movie, there's these like raw performances that feel like they're improvised at times and feel like tonally off the cuff, yet still working inside of it. And it's also a noir film about kids trying to impress adults. And I love that movie so much. I could, that's mine.
Love it.
I realized, like, I was talking about Babe Pig in the City this morning while we drove.
That's such a better fucking answer. It's such a more charming answer, you piece of shit.
Well, no. I mean, I think Babe Pig in the City was, people said it was bad when it came out, but now everybody loves it. Like, it's definitely critical consensus, don't you think?
Yes.
It wasn't the kids' classic. Babe, I was going to say, Babe makes me cry, for sure. I should have mentioned it earlier. Babe 2, Pig in the City, when the pig saves the English bulldog, you know, who's like a big meanie, and he's hanging by his chain collar, and the pig saves him, and then all the animals give Babe the respect. They like all kiss the ring, and he sort of humbly accepts it. He's like, yeah, okay, and they're all like, "You're our leader now. We love you. You know, you're the king." That shit makes me cry. So that's kind of the answer. That's the kind of stuff that always makes me cry. But I'll defend Babe Pig in the City anytime.
Okay,
And,
love that. Love that.
Also, do you ever think about when you...
movies.
Wait, say that again? Sorry.
Along with a lot of George Miller movies.
Right.
Great career.
Do you ever think about, when you think about a scene like you're talking about in Babe Pig in the City, where all these like stakes ratcheting up, and they're doing this, and then there's this, but then there's this, and they have to do this. When you see that in a movie, do you ever imagine the person writing it?
Yes.
Because based off of our experience, I just know that whenever we've had to write or think about scenes like that, it's very little like typing. It's much more like pacing and talking out and being like, if anybody else saw us, they would be like, those guys are insane people.
Yeah. But it's also, I don't know, I can think of those moments where you know you got something and you're really excited about it, and you don't want to, like you want to get through it, but you also know it's just something to be cherished. So
I think you've got really like our writing dynamic with those two movies in a way. Like At Close Range is a movie about fucked up, degenerate teenagers doing bad things to impress their psychopathic fathers, and Babe Pig in the City.
Right.
A match made in heaven, the perfect double feature.
I think so.
Yeah, I'll defend the darkness of Babe Pig in the City too.
Right. Okay.
It's layered.
Do you guys know? Do you guys know that in At Close Range, at the end of the movie, when Sean Penn points the gun, the myth of that movie, he pretended to load the gun before they called action. So the take that you have of Christopher Walken responding to a gun in his face because Sean Penn is pointing it closer and closer in his eye, Christopher Walken actually thinks that there's a bullet in that gun.
Oh my god.
Sean Penn's crazy.
I know. I love him.
That's wild.
Whoa.
Actors are supposed to be crazy, guys. This is a thing that the 2010s ruined for everybody. Actors are supposed to be crazy, and it makes them more watchable. Who do you want to watch, Sean Penn or Glenn Powell? Come on.
Yeah, valid.
That's fair, yeah. Like who what's that guy's name? Marlon Brando? I'm sure like he would be the worst guy to hang out with, but
he was the craziest. He was legitimately you're literally referencing the number one
like
craziest actor of all
and then
time.
Jared Leto's like under him.
No, but way worse.
Yeah, but his sometimes the crazy doesn't, transcend
Match
into
the talent.
Yeah, unfortunately.
There you go. Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
That one.
Thank you guys so much for chatting with us.
Thank you for having us. And we're really hoping, I don't know where most of your audience is, but the movie is in theaters right now. We're going to be
Yes.
out in more theaters over the next few weeks, especially May 8th. So stay on the lookout, ourherobalthazar.com. Check us out. Follow us on Instagram for all the updates.
Yes.
Maybe me and Ricky will be coming to your town. Maybe you'll get Jaden Martell, B-Boy Malone coming to your town.
Yes.
And doesn't Balthazar actually have an Instagram account as well?
B-Boy Malone 212. Follow him. You know, he's always doing weird things like giving away tickets and crying about how he's not playing at your local theater.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.